Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Good Movies and Music. My name's AJ, and we are here today with another album reaction. If you've been following along, we've been counting down the top 12 albums of 2020, and that's based off the Metascore from Metacritic.com. Just felt like I did a really bad job of keeping up with music in the past couple years, and thought, a good way to kind of catch up and, see what's going on new in music is to just listen to some of the best rated albums of the year. So that's what we're doing, and we are up to number 3, and that is Perfume Genius with the album Set My Heart on Fire Immediately. And yeah, wow, that's an intense album title, isn't it? But then again, 2020 was a pretty intense year, so it makes sense that we're going to get some pretty intense albums. Of course, I'm making an assumption based on that title. I actually really don't know much about Perfume Genius. If I'm being honest, all I really know is that I've seen that name on festival lineups for the past few years. And I've always thought, it's a pretty interesting name, but I've never actually listened to any of Perfume Genius's music. So before we listen, I'm just going to do a little research and give myself a little more context about what I can expect. Michael Alden Hadrius, better known as Perfume Genius, American musician. His music explores themes including sexuality, his personal struggle with Crohn's disease, domestic abuse, and the dangers faced by gay men in contemporary society. So yeah, this does sound like it's going to be a pretty heavy album. And this is really the beautiful thing about music, and I would say film and really just art in general, is that, art is an empathy generator, or it can be. We all have our own privileges and we all have our own disadvantages. It's that idea of intersectionality, right? I'm a straight man, but I'm of Latin descent. So even though I enjoy the privileges of being a straight man, I also, have definitely dealt with the disadvantages of being a brown man in this country. So we all kind of have our own, it's a give and take, right? So art being an empathy generator, I can use my own personal experience of the ways I've felt, disadvantaged or pushed aside or just, not acknowledged. And I can use that and apply those feelings to what somebody might be going through as an openly gay person in this country. And it's just so bizarre to me that people aren't more empathetic in that way and can't sort of, apply their own experiences to others and let other people's experience apply to them, and why we can't all just kind of look at it that way. It's weird to me that people have such a hard time relating to things that aren't specifically their own experience, because so many of our experiences, while not one-to-one, at least can be similar enough that we can go, oh, I kind of get that. I don't fully get it, and I'm willing to listen, but I get it enough that I can at least open my ear and open my eyes to what you're going through, and at least be a proper audience for it. You know what I mean? I don't have to only listen to music or watch films that are about my specific experience. There's something to learn in everyone's story. There's that notion that the specific is universal, and I absolutely find that to be true. But anyway, I'm just going on and on at this point. Let's actually get back to the album. So, Set My Heart on Fire Immediately. Wow, this list of genres here. Okay, so apparently this album is about to contain elements of Baroque pop, art pop, synth pop, funk, alt pop, shoegaze, ambient, psychedelic, R&B, acoustic pop, disco, swamp rock, chamber, doo-wop, industrial, and heartland rock. Okay. I'd love to hear one song that just is all of those genres at the same time. Like, wasn't there a Flaming Lips album or some sort of concept album thing they did where you would play different discs at the same time? And like, if you, depending on how you listen to it, if you play these discs at the same time, it would all kind of sort of encompass one musical experience. Like, you were getting to choose the mix in that way. Like, what if somebody did that with a song where it was like all these different genres and you just play them all at the same time? I don't know, that might just end up being a cacophony, so maybe not. But anyway, yeah, color me intrigued. So yeah, I think that's all I really need to know. I think we should just go ahead and just jump into this. What do you say? So yeah, let's go ahead and listen. This is going to be my reaction to Set My Heart on Fire Immediately by Perfume Genius. Let's go.
Half of my whole life is gone. It was just a dream. Half of my whole life is done. When it
feels pleasant. Although that opening line, half my whole life is done, not so pleasant. Well, I guess it kind of depends, right? Like I imagine some people greet middle age with a sense of, a sense of relief maybe, a sense of calm. But then I could see also the other side of it of just being like, oh man, half my life is done. What have I done with my life to this point? So I'm guessing over the course of this album, maybe that'll unravel itself and I'll know exactly where he was coming from with that line. Musically, so far, it reminds me of this group that unfortunately they broke up, but they were really good, Magical Clouds, out of Canada, I believe. And Magical Clouds was this duo. The singer had a very similar voice to this guy, and just a producer who would make these really sparse, minimal electronic beats. And it had a very similar vibe to that. So yeah, if this is the direction of this album, I think I'm gonna enjoy it quite a bit. Let's move on with track 2. This is called Describe. Is that slide guitar? I love that sound. Yeah, I'm really digging this. It's interesting he's from Seattle because there's so much in this that just sounds Midwestern and Southern to me. Which, by the way, it's currently overcast and it's been raining off and on today. And yeah, this is just the perfect mood for that. This one's a little more upbeat.
It's the strangest feeling, unknown, even almost good. It's enough in the mirror, I can almost find your face. You know it's been such a long, long time without you.
So I don't know enough about music production to have the right words for this, but the sound of that song, the instruments sounded like there's like an echoiness or like a big room feel to the sound of that instrumentation. And I'm wondering if, is that an intentional aesthetic choice, or is it just by virtue of how the instruments are being recorded? Like I wonder, are they being recorded at maybe a certain distance that you normally traditionally wouldn't record from, where there's just like sort of like you feel the bigness of the room. And it doesn't have the feel of sort of, tacked on reverb that was put there in post. It feels very much like ingrained in the tone and the quality of the sound. Like there's just a bigness, you hear the echo of the room. So yeah, let me know if you know about music production. Are you hearing that too? Or am I just talking nonsense? But no, for sure. I'm pretty sure that's I'm hearing something there.
Jason undressed me. He did not do the same. Even his boots were clumsy, shaker. He was afraid. Tears streaming down his face.
And this has been a quality in all the music so far, but this song in particular is just so cinematic. It's just so vivid.
We were 23 when
that's kind of sad. Buy a guy breakfast, right? Wow, that was such a both angelic yet intense build-up for what was kind of some levity at the end of, you know, such a poignant song. He just stole $20 from the guy's pants, and he's pretty sure that he saw him, but it sounds like he didn't do anything. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, what do you do? I mean, you're kind of the asshole in that situation where, you know, you just had this vulnerable, you know, probably very, you know, seminal moment in your life, and you know, he at the next morning he's just like, now get out, you know, just like, yeah, okay, I'll leave, but I'm gonna take $20 for as an asshole tax. Was that the line from? Is that from Fight Club? I think. And that's that heartbreaking thing of like when, you know, people are still trying to figure it out. You know, I can't even imagine just, you know, being somebody who's gay and, you know, having to navigate, you know, everyone's on their own journey, everyone's at their own stage of where they're at with their own sexuality, you know, how they're processing it and how they're living it. And yeah, so the fact that maybe you could be at some level of comfort with who you are, but, you know, you're out there and you know, you're dating people or you're just hooking up with people who might not be anywhere near the same level as you. They might just barely be at the beginning of trying to figure out that journey. And yeah, I can imagine that probably leads to a lot of just awkward or uncomfortable or memorable situations. But anyway, yeah, let's keep it going. That so far, that song lyrically, I think, was the one that I think was the most interesting and compelling so far lyrically. Even musically, though, I really liked that little outro piece at the end where he was talking about taking the 20. Just the way that was presented musically was just almost operatic. It was really cool. I really enjoyed that. That was some great production, some great songwriting. All right, let's keep it going. And the next track, it's called Leave. Well, I wonder if these are all kind of, if this is telling some sort of sequential story. Because at the end of that song, this guy that he was singing about literally just told him to leave. So, I don't know, maybe there's a story here. That's a different voice. He must be right up on the mic for that, right? "90 minutes long." Wonder what that's in reference to. Those coyotes or wolves? Next track is called On the Floor. This one has a little bit of 80s vibe right off the jump.
I'm trying, but still I close my eyes.
I'm really digging this instrumental.
Constant pressing all through the night. On the floor, a piece, I run my mouth, I pray and wait. I cross out his name on the page. This heart is in mine, the rise and fall of his chest on me.
How long till this heart isn't mine? That could have a lot of different meanings. Is he talking about the heart of his lover? You know, like how long am I gonna have this person? Or is he talking about his own heart?
I'm trying,
I was really digging how just sort of pleasant and peaceful this music is, and also just kind of mournful, and there's a real sense of yearning and longing in a lot of this music, which that feeling of yearning, it's such an interesting feeling to experience and then to also try to convey in art, because that feeling, when you're yearning for someone or something, it's sort of this double-edged where it's like, it's kind of a positive emotion, but it's definitely also kind of a negative emotion, because there's this, thing or this person or something that is driving you, that, it's giving you some sort of sense of purpose, or some, it's giving you something to drive towards. It's sort of motivating you, maybe, in a way, but it's also just a thing that you don't have. And maybe it's a thing you shouldn't have, or maybe you're wanting the wrong things. Maybe, it's very possible to yearn or long for the wrong things, or for things that, aren't good for us. So it's such a compelling feeling to explore in art, because it's such a complicated feeling. Think of it like having a crush on somebody. Like think about your first crush, and like when you think back on that, how does that feel thinking back on that? Like, I'm sure there's definitely some positive association, but there's probably also some heartbreak involved in that. So yeah, it's such a complex emotion to experience and then also to convey in art. So yeah, I always really give props to anybody who, can accurately convey that emotion in their music. And this music is very successfully doing that for me. This is a very different instrumental. This is like a video game level. I'm really digging this.
Your body changes everything. You are anchoring. Your body changes everything. I can hardly breathe. And now you're right above me, and your shadow suffocates. Do you feel the same? The camera cut away.
It's interesting you mentioned the camera cutting away. And I feel like there's been other sort of like movie or filmmaking type references in some of these lyrics. And I even mentioned how some of these songs feel so cinematic. It's almost like he's directing a film through this music in a way. It's really interesting.
My body changes everything. I cannot be. And now you're right above me, and your shadow suffocates.
There's just this sort of cinematic, operatic, stage play quality to this music. Like, it's not just meant to be sung or just to be listened to. Like, it's meant to be performed. Like, you can feel the performance of it, Like, it just, like I said, has this sort of stage play quality to it. Like a section like this, like I'm just seeing a stage with like a backdrop. I'm seeing people perform like movement to it, you know. I wouldn't even necessarily call it dance, but just like movement. And that would feel like so organic and natural to the sound of this music. Like just a voice and a guitar, but there's so much presence to this. Just a Touch is the next track. It sort of feels like a closing track, like an outro, just because there's a sort of, there's like a saying goodbye quality to this song.
You can say what you want, but you already know our body's breaking down to a single beat. I got what you want.
Not quite yet.
I got what you need, son.
What is that little melody in the background there?
Right on time, set me free, don't wait. Yeah.
The sense of tone and that tonal control is one of the big strengths of this album. Just like masterful control of the mood and the atmosphere and the... I feel like I'm on a journey on this album. That's what I was expecting. I knew a rock song was going to break out at some point during this. Just, you could feel all the elements sort of hinting at each other. It's just like very similar to something like Radiohead could have done around the In Rainbows era. There is a house. I like how subtly just these oldies slash doo-wop influences are just kind of blended into this music. This was very noir. I like that little piano there. that's crushing. All he meant to love is gone to the ground. It's tragic. He's saying he gave up all his love for a song. Wow. Yep, that's that whole artist's life, that struggle, balancing your artistic life. It's not easy. Borrowed Light. We are on the final track.
No sad moonlight, just be here, Jamie. No sun hangs outside. Now rest your hand in mine and swim safely home. But there's no secret. Just another door.
Wow. That album was an experience. And this is what I mean by that. Like I've listened to, a handful of albums, I think 9 or 10 at this point on this channel. And, I've enjoyed them all to varying degrees. There are some albums that have felt really strong, but this is the first one that feels like, I don't know if this is a concept album necessarily, but it just feels so cohesive in that these songs all feel like they're of a specific feeling and of a specific time and place in this person's life. Like you can just feel sort of all these internal struggles, and like it feels like all of these songs come from the exact same place, and that they all are kind of striving for the same thing and going towards the same place. There's like a real drive and a real momentum to these songs, that it just, the whole thing feels so cohesive. Like it feels like, and I know there's been some really personal albums that I've listened to on this countdown, but this album feels so organic and so, this has just a real essence to it. It's like of this person. Those old viewfinders with the clicker, and it shows you the different images. Like it feels like each of these songs is just a slide on that viewfinder, and you're just seeing snapshots of this man's life. And another thing I was saying while listening to this album is how sort of, and I think my thinking on this evolved as I was listening to it, but my first instinct was that it felt very cinematic. And then I was thinking, but it also feels just operatic and stagey or stage-like. It feels like a performance. Like obviously all music, especially, a lot of touring musicians, they play live, they play on stage. But this felt a little beyond that. Like it didn't feel like you're just going to go to a venue and see a person on a stage playing music. This feels like it needs to be performed in a more holistic way. Like there needs to be a backdrop and a stage design, and there needs to be, performance happening around it. As much as so many of these songs were just very minimal and sparse, even those, I would say especially those, the song Moonbend comes to mind. That was just 5 minutes of just basically just voice and a guitar with some other flourishes here and there. But Moonbend just had this movement to it. It just it begged for sort of a performance to be built around it. And that's just the vibe I got from this whole album. It just felt so visceral and raw. All this energy percolating and bubbling beneath the surface that like it just begs you to move despite how minimal it is. yeah, I don't. How do you replicate that? That's a real artistic accomplishment that I don't even know how to begin to scratch the surface on that. I guess you just got to have it in you. You just have to have all that energy percolating within you. It's like this album felt like he was going against his instinct. Like so much of the time he's just singing in this very restrained sort of way, but you just get the sense that he would rather just be screaming, and he's just, it's taking all he has to not just start screaming into the mic. I found this album so compelling. Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts on this album. I feel like I said a lot of them throughout the album, so I don't want to rehash, what I've already said in between songs. But anyway, yeah, I'm really interested to go back and listen to some of his other music, because I think I read that this was his 5th album. So yeah, let me know if you're a fan and what would be a good place to start. How does this album compare to his previous albums? I imagine 5 albums in, I'm sure there's been an evolution to his sound and his approach. Yeah, I'm really curious to know where this album ranks for some of his more hardcore fans. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for me for today. If you want to follow along with my album reactions, I'm also doing movie reactions. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you can follow along. Signing out for today, my name's AJ. This has been Good Movies and Music. Thanks for watching and have a good day.